I consider it good counsel, surrounding yourself with good people. That's what I love about your school community, is because that's exactly what you've done. You built a fortress of people who are all, and there's so many deals out there, you don't have to cut the corners.
And this brand and the trademark and the school community and all this shit and the 600 plus people and all these 200 deals in the last 90 days, dude, that shit started, we just went off. So people, any piece of advice I give to anybody, don't think too much. Pick up the freaking phone. You're probably going to get cursed out anyway. And you're going to quit probably. So why don't you just get started, right? There's more to be gained in the activity, not the mental masturbation that people do. I think a lot more people really need to get down to what are you valuing yourself at?
All right, guys, welcome to the Leads to Deals podcast, where we talk about everything from leads to deals and everything that we talk about leads to deals. Who's this podcast for? You, my listeners that are out there looking to better their lives, better their financial situation, understand what the successful people have done in front of you, so that way you can replicate those tips and tactics and better your life and become a multimillionaire many times over. I know you're going to find tremendous value in today's podcast, especially with this kind of outside concept that we're bringing in. So here's how you show us, me and my guests, love. We want you to subscribe. We want you to like, comment, and then ultimately share this video. Now, today's episode is proudly sponsored by the best data company out there for all things real estate. Whether you're an investor, wholesaler, mortgage refinance company, or even a solar sales team, if you cold call, if you drop mail and you need motivated sellers, go to synergydata.io. Currently, it's $199 a month. That's it for 10,000 free records. You can even find out sellers' credit scores, credit histories, everything that you need to know to identify this person needs your help. So today's guest is someone I've got a ton of respect for. I want you guys to meet. His name's Willy Numbers. We're going to get into this right here, but he's got a great track record in being in professional sales, communication, and then offering a game-changing way of looking at real estate. We call it like the reverse flip system. This unique approach takes dead leads, which we all have, CRMs full of, and they turns them into a scalable, six-figure profitable business. His method is helping people build a sustainable real estate business, which you need right now. You need every strategy out there right now. So get ready for some serious bombs, and welcome William Dennis to the show. Brother, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you, man. Excited to be here.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on. I've had my eye on you for a while, and I was thinking about this as I was driving in. I said, every time I hear a creative concept in real estate, my red flag alert goes up, right? But I watched people, how they carry themselves. I watch how they take care of themselves. And I was thinking about it this morning. Like, I know a little bit about what you're doing. I want to learn more. And I've already validated, verified it, talked to people like it's the shit. But I thought about this morning. I said, man, you know what? If he was a 350-pound dude, if he didn't take care of himself personally, if he didn't present himself, I would never even given this opportunity a shot. And I said, isn't that weird how it's kind of like that out there, where it's like, like I look at somebody and how they carry themselves, but almost before I'm even open to hearing what they got to say.
Yeah, I would say that success leaves clues. That's kind of what I guide my life by. I was always taught that by mentors. But perception is a real thing, and I'm not talking about like, just because he drives his car, he must.
Exactly.
I'm talking about, if you're talking to me about discipline, you're talking to me about changing your life, or you're talking to me about making millions of dollars, and I'm looking at you and I'm like, but you eat McDonald's, you get up at 8 a.m. I'm not listening to you anymore. No offense, it's just what it is, right? Your message is not aligned with what you're saying.
I'm not the richest guy out there, but I have comforts and I have a home gym. And I just had the guys coming out to do the stickers in the gym. It's all black, like super dope lighting, but on the wall above where the leg presses are at, real big across the wall, they're coming out there. They just took the measurements, and it's going to say, discipline is my vice. Because me, I came up with that in my head, 14 years ago, because I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to be a retard. I was so tired of all these, because I heard every man's got a vice. And so a man with a hidden vice, you got to, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make discipline my vice. I'm going to make on my journey throughout my life, I'm going to make that thing that I'm addicted to be like that discipline, just like you were saying, because it leaves clues. Success in one of those is like, are you disciplined enough to go through what you got to go through ahead?
Yeah, man. I always say to people, dude, because a lot of people. I'm more in the public eye now than I ever have been, right? With Instagram, whatever. Specifically, South Florida, young men. That's kind of what tends to gravitate towards me. I'm very outspoken and blunt. They're always like, "Oh man, I need to get motivation." I'm like, "No, you don't. Motivation's bullshit. Motivation's David Goggins on your phone screen, and you feel great for 10 minutes. What you need in your life is fucking discipline. Because discipline will get you up at 5 a.m. when you don't want to get up. Discipline is gonna get you through getting kicked in the nuts when you go through a business divorce and business." Right?
Yes.
Like that's what discipline is. And you will always do it no matter what.
So I really want to know though, Will, because I have a lot of respect for you. I've been watching you in this space. And I had a lot of skeptical respect for you in the beginning. Like I knew you were connected with people, but it's new, it's flashy, right? And so one of the things that I see in this industry is out of any industry I've ever had any association with, I've seen the shiny object syndrome attack this place so damn bad. And it's like, man, I'd never been to it in my entire life before I'd gotten the REI space, which is like 5 years ago. I'd never been to like an event before other than like Tony Robbins or something like that. And I went to these real estate events and I went there and I took so many notes. And then it was like the next event was 3 months later. And I was like, why am I going back 3 months later, bro? I haven't even finished implementing all this stuff here.
Sure.
And then, you go back, but you see that like a lot of people, they go to these events and I think they struggle with the distraction almost of other people's success than the implementation of the tactics that they learned. And so I wanted to kind of get your vibe on it. Like, I know you came originally from the financial industry, so Merrill Lynch, I believe, et cetera.
Right.
What was your progress there from working at Merrill Lynch to getting terminated and then finally to real estate? Let me hear a little bit of background to get a perspective.
Yeah, man. Super, super quick story. My story is a very direct track. Super shitty in a lot of ways, but very direct. I was a Merrill Lynch guy. My dream forever was to be on Wall Street. So I graduated college, no-name school, cold called my way to an internship, got to an internship in New York, nailed the job at Merrill Lynch, was on Wall Street for about a year and some change at 23, 24. And then I got fired. So when I got fired there, I had a choice to make. And I basically moved back in with my mom. It was an ultimate, I was 25, 24 maybe. And, it was a low, man. I was living in Manhattan. I thought that was the dream. Boom. Now I'm back home with mom in South Florida. And she was going through a divorce at the time. So just not an ideal time, right? But success is never really planned and opportunities don't wait for anybody. They kind of just show up and either you're ready or you're not. So I started listening to podcasts. But that moment in my life, really deep down, when I got fired, I got really pissed. And I'll say this to anybody listening to this. It's not good to stay angry for a very long period of time. But if you're a young man and a woman too, but I'm speaking more to men, when you're a young man and you got a chip on your shoulder, I don't know what the fuck happened to society that made that wrong. That chip on my shoulder has gotten me so fucking far. I've eaten so many people's lunches because of that chip. Don't ever lose that chip. I'd much rather be that warrior in the garden. So when I used that chip, I heard a podcast. I went from Merrill Lynch to a buddy of mine, first opportunity that came by. And this is, at least in my humble opinion, what got me success and what it looked like for me at the time. I didn't wait. I didn't think a lot. There was no analysis paralysis. I called a buddy of mine and I was like, yo, I'm back home. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, but I'm looking for anything. And he was like, dude, I'm buying and selling these diabetic testing strips. You want to put out bandit signs? You take the calls and we'll split the profits. I was like, done. Went, picked up the signs. So now from Merrill Lynch, I'm out there putting out diabetic testing strip signs and taking calls and going to people's houses and picking up fucking boxes. That was my start. As I was driving, I knew that wasn't going to be a forever thing. I started listening to podcasts, and it was Sean Terry's podcast, Flip to Freedom. I heard this kid in Miami at that time was wholesaling, heard the podcast 3 times, cold called his office, lied to his secretary. When I got him on the phone, all I said was, you don't know me, I don't know you, but if you teach me this business, I'll pay for the marketing and I'll split my first 5 deals with you 50-50. And he said, can you come here tomorrow? And I said, yeah. And then 91 days later, boom, there was 5 deals. I think he made like 70 grand. We made somewhere around I think it was less because of fees and shit, but like 60. And that was it. That's how I got started.
You said you listened to that podcast 3 times.
Mhm.
What about it made you keep on revisiting it?
Honestly, I really was picking the first time I heard it, I was like, whoa, that was quick. I don't even know what wholesaling is. Let me
Yeah,
listen to that again. Second
yeah.
time, I was listening to who is this guy and how can I approach him? Third time, I was like, all right, what's the window that he says in there that I can use to get an in? And then I heard it, which was he didn't put his number out there, but he put his office number. And he also said he went to Pace High School. Technically speaking, a cousin of mine went to Pace. They did not know each other, but that was my in. And that was
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
And the diabetes strip testing, what is that like? What are you going into somebody's house to do?
so basically, man, like there's overages in diabetic testing strip, like the little boxes, the AccuChecks and stuff. And they
Uh-huh.
give too many boxes through like Medicare and stuff like that. And they're very valuable. So we would just buy them for like $20 and I'd flip them on eBay for like 45, but we'd buy them in bulk. And that kind of grew. And yeah,
I
man,
love that, bro.
yeah, it was like, unbeknownst to me, it was basically at Merrill, I was an oil trader and I was a junior
Yep.
trader. So it was arbitrage, right? It was futures. Well, wholesaling and arbitrage is the same shit. So like the diabetic testing strip was the same shit. The object was the real estate deals, right? And then, it's gone up and up and up in my career from there.
Yeah, the way you talked about how you first heard about wholesaling, I had lent money to a buddy of mine in Orlando, and like he had these deals, and whatever, I would either take a percentage of the property or he would just pay me back, the money plus a really good interest. But I never really paid attention. And then all of a sudden, one day, like my other industry had kind of shut down, and he was telling me about it, and I thought about it just like you just kind of described it from Merrill Lynch. I was like, so wait a minute. So I just get this piece of paper. And then it's like I'm almost in a commodities market. And I just go there, I got to get to the highest bidder. It blew my mind because I know all the dumb things that I had done as a youth. That if I would have known that I didn't have to drive around with that in the car or with those guys and associate with these people, that those yard signs, those road signs that you just talked about, those bandit signs that I would drive by while I was being a degenerate as a kid were really an exit out. It kind of blew my mind that this thing existed.
Yeah, man. Look, I'll say, and I think I still stick to it to this day, man. One of my core principles, and I don't even know what you would label it as, but KISS is just keep it simple, stupid, dude. When people come, you look at reverse flip, right? We started this thing probably a little bit under 90 days ago. Now, don't get me wrong. I know we're going to get into it. I've been doing it for 5 years. I just didn't call it reverse flip. But what people see today, and this brand and the trademark and the school community and all this shit and the 600 plus people and all these 200 deals in the last 90 days, dude, that shit started and we just went off. So people, any piece of advice I could give to anybody, don't think too much. Pick up the freaking phone. You're probably going to get cursed out anyway. And you're going to quit probably. So why don't you just get started, right? There's more to be gained in the activity, not the mental masturbation that people do. Oh, what if this and what if that? Well, what if you just grab the phone and just call somebody? How about that?
But isn't that unique? And I think it takes your type of voice to cut through the bullshit because everybody in this industry, not everybody, there's a large portion that are afflicted with that, as you put it, mental masturbation, where it's just like, it's this analysis paralysis. And, sometimes they got so much shit going on. They don't know what they want to do. Do I want to be a flipper? Do I want to be a wholesaler? Do I want to buy and hold? Do I need to go work for somebody else's team because I can't afford my marketing? There's all these things going on. So with you having such a large community right now, like how are you kind of overcoming that where you're a good business person? You don't want to charge somebody. It's like, I don't want to sell you my shirt for you to never wear my shirt. I want to make sure somebody who buys my shirt, damn sure they're going to enjoy and use it. So what do you do? And how tough is it to deal with it where there's a certain population of people who may not or don't do, et cetera?
I have just a very basic train of thought on this. I've been at this as an entrepreneur already 8 years, right? At different capacities. Now, while that's not all the time in the world, I've done it at a very, very high level and I never wasted time, I like to think. So I've accepted the fact that it's not going to work for everybody, right? There's always going to be that percentage. While I try my very hardest because I do care and you ask anybody, I stay longer than anybody. I try to shake everybody's hand. I really try to give the same care and time to everybody. I'm just me, man. And I tell people, I think I have the ability to move people's asses in the right direction. I make it funny. I make it silly. But I'm just like, dude, if I could do it, I mean, believe me, with a haircut like that, like you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the reality, man. So I just keep it simple, and I'm like, look, man, and I have no problem, and it served me well and not well in my career. I have no problem telling somebody like, dude, I just don't think. I think you're gonna, I don't think you want it, and that'll do one of two things to people. That'll either shoot them up, and now you see their real side, and I'm like, good, get angry. You should be angry. I just insulted you, but I just put a mirror to your face. Or that person's gonna be like, you know what, man, I can't believe it. I'm like, get out. This life was gonna eat you alive anyway. Like, don't try to justify that to me.
Yeah, we talked about in the beginning, you said, hey, listen, I don't know why society is taking the chip off of people's shoulders and or not fostered the culture where you want to have that. And so it's the feminization, if you will, of manhood in today's marketplace, right? In my opinion. And I think that's why so many people are attracted through people who will cut through the bullshit and say it how it is. And that's what I appreciate about the way you carry your message, because you're not trying to make friends. It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm a fucking accomplishing it. You can come join. I'll support you because we're brothers. We're in arms together, but also no dead weight. And so I think that's really, really good about your messaging right now.
I appreciate it, man. Look, I think about it from a practicality perspective of respect, right? I'm a big respect and honor guy. I wouldn't do that to you. So why would I allow you to do that to me? I think, and it took me years to figure this out, but like, I think I had a pretty good idea, and it was a lot of work, but I had a pretty good idea of self-worth. I think a lot more people really need to get down to, what are you valuing yourself at? I'm a big MJ fan. Like, MJ is one of my idols of all time. You do not fall down to other people's standards. They raise up to your standards. Period. You don't want to play on this team, man. You don't want to show up early. You don't want to play on the weekends, man. Listen, my brother, I wish you the best. I got no personal problem with you, but get the fuck off my team.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot here in this office. There's a difference between a team and a dream team. And so what we're doing is something very, very special. And the advantage that we've had here in at least our office, 160 some people, and I say it occasionally when they need to understand, but there's not a single person in this office that's here because I need them. 100% of these people are here because I want them. Which gives us a very unique power of position here in this office to be able to curate the absolute best group of people here. So for you, I know you got out of wholesaling and now you're really knee deep into this reverse flip. Give us like the fundamentals for the guys, the gals are out there. They're like, hey, I'm in wholesaling or I'm an investor. And what is it that Will, Dennis, and this community are actually providing or educating, et cetera, et cetera? Give us the full scoop.
Super simple. 5 years ago, I was wholesaling and I came across what everyone in this business would know as a dead lead or a dead deal. We had a house under contract, absolute piece of shit, like double mortgage, $300,000 worth of code violation liens, a bankruptcy from back in the day. It was vacant. It literally had a prostitute living inside it. I mean, it was not sellable through the avenue of wholesaling, certainly not a fix and flip, right? And it was sitting there for about 6 years. I had a mentor of mine at the time that said, just buy the deed. And I was like, all right, great. So I offered the guy $3,000, bought it. So first of all, one thing, shit my pants in that moment because I'm like, oh my God, you control a piece of real estate for $3,000. That's dope. Figured out the problems on the back end, did a quiet title on that one. And then we made $111,000 like 85 days later. And it was a house that was sitting there for 6 years and light bulb went off. So fast forward to today, what we've done is I've taken what I've done with my personal team and then my small community, and I've taught them that, which is buying deeds. And really, while everybody was running away from all this shit and everybody's like, oh no, you need equity, you need this. I'm like, but you don't. And I think that there's something over here. So while others zig, we zagged, and we focus on buying very complex, hairy, dead deals, right? And they're all different levels of complexity, right? And we buy the deed, control it with power of attorney, we get an assignment of surplus, right? We teach this inside the school. And then we joint venture and we partner. We have a loss mitigation firm that clears up all this crap, which was the missing piece to our industry, and no one had ever done that. And then we let the deal tell us what is the exit. I don't square. I believe, and I've done this for years, right? When I was wholesaling 150 plus deals a year. I always try to square peg a round hole. And I know that our business always tries to square peg a round hole. A lot of people are trying to force a deal into innovation. They're trying to force a deal into wholesale. Oh, because I got my marketing costs, because I got this, because I got that. The deal doesn't want to do that. So every time you force that, that's why it's so hard. Right? That's why your cost per leads go up. That's why your cost per deals go up, right? Plus, let's just think about it from a practicality perspective. You are competing with 25 dipshits to every deal because that seller feels like they're the hottest girl at the dance because they are. So now you're playing a losing game. Now you're catching a falling knife. It's like, well, you offered me 200. What can you do? Our sellers don't say that. Our sellers are more like this. Well, nobody can buy this. Well, people have tried, but there's nothing you can do. Well, there's no equity, and the bank's going to take it. Great. So let me give you some money for the deed, and let me try to figure this out and help you out of your situation so you don't end up at auction or in bankruptcy. Right? So it's a totally different conversation. It's not a push. It's a pull. They're pulling you into this, and it's very, very simple. It's low risk, high margin, right? And not all deals are huge. Some are 10, some are 50 grand, some are 6-figure, right? Multiple 6-figure. But the idea is you're solving for a different problem. So number one, your marketing is so much lower. Number two, the competition is crazy low. Number three, and most importantly, you don't have all the fundamental issues in our wholesale business, which is inspection period, somebody circumventing you or going around you to talk to your seller. You don't have to sue them, right? Because now you're in a different business. Now you're chasing money rather than just closing a deal, right? You don't have any of that stuff. You have control, which was never taught in our industry to the masses. Controlling. Listen, a contract with equitable interest gives you nothing. Make no mistake about it. And I'm not hating on wholesaling. I've done it at a very, very high level. I'm just saying fundamentally, it's flawed.
Yeah, let's go back and break that down a little bit for us kind of novices. So when we're taking over the deed, it kind of sounds similar to like when we're doing a creative finance deal, potentially, right? We're like, hey, listen, we're going to put the deed in a trust name. So that way it's, obscured more or less from the mortgage holder, and we'll still make the mortgage notes on your behalf. So in this regard, when you're taking over the deed, you're not really assuming any of the debt at that stage. You're literally just taking possession of the parcel itself.
Yeah, so that's a good point. There's two different things that I want everybody to understand. Very similar to a creative deal. There's ownership in this hand, and then there's debt in this hand.
Right.
They are two very different things, non-correlated, and one does not have to have the other. What do I mean by that in layman's terms? You can own something and not be responsible for the debt. Now, to be said, you should be ethical, you should be moral, and not be a piece of shit and scam people when you say that you're going to do certain things with their debt. But you can control, aka ownership of a property, while not being responsible for the debt.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I literally just watched somebody, I get Google alerts I set up on like different brand names and competitors, et cetera, et cetera. I saw a review come in for a major wholesaling office in Florida literally last night. And it was like, it was a creative finance deal and they ruined my credit. Hand to God, they ruined my credit. They said it would only be 2 to 3 years. They've missed so many payments and I can't get out of this contract. And it's like, holy shit. Like, bro, this lady, and she goes and tells her story. I was in a big financial situation. I just gotten out of the divorce. I just gotten out of the military. I reached out. I thought I was going to get help. And now they have missed multiple payments. And I'm like, I know these guys personally. I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing not making payments on them? It's a different situation than what you're describing. But for your situation, who's really benefiting the most? Is in other words, like, why wouldn't the banks, why are they going to want to settle for a little bit less or a lot of bit less? They don't just want to take the asset. And like, who's really winning in your situation?
Yeah. So it's such a good freaking point, man. I'm really happy that you said that because it's such a good point. Look, the seller, and I'll kind of take this apart piece by piece.
Please. The
seller, which is the most important thing to us, period, right? No offense, I don't give a shit about Bank of America.
Yep.
They're going to be just fine, right? They're insured by Fannie Mae. I care about the seller who's been going through foreclosure for the last 4 years. Literally everybody's forgotten that lady or that guy, and that person needs help, period. So the seller's benefiting tremendously because the benefits are, and again, depends on the deal, but your credit shoots up. You don't have to go through a foreclosure. By the way, a short sale is much better on your credit than a foreclosure. From an actual legal person, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not giving any legal advice, but I'm just telling you, you could talk to anybody that's worth their weight. A short sale will get you into home ownership way faster than a foreclosure. From the bank size, they'd rather you short sale than do a foreclosure. Why? Because you saved them costs, and you said, well, why does the bank want to do that? It's super simple. Banks are in the business of what? Loaning money, not taking back assets. That's a pain in their balls, number one. And they learned their lesson in 07, 08. It costs them money every single time that they have to go file something with the court. They have to do asset preservation, which means boarding up the property, winterizing it, etc. Vandalism, squatters, open permit, violate, right? Now they imagine having millions of properties everywhere, and you got to keep track of this shit. Now they got legal teams. Now they got accounting teams, right? They have losses on their books. They're reporting bad quarters, right? Year over year. They have to support their loss mitigation departments, right? So the banks do a and every bank is different, and there's so many different servicers, but the banks are very smart, as we know. Wall Street never really loses money. So if you want to know what happens with a short sale, I'll break it down to you on the back end. Now that we have this loss mitigation company, I've seen some crazy shit. This is literally what happens when a short sale happens. I'm going to make up numbers. Let's say that the debt is 200.
Yep.
We get a short sale for 100. I'm making this up. So the bank in that example is losing 100K. You follow? Cool.
In theory, yep.
So here's what's going to happen. Bank's going to say, Chase Bank, let's call it. Chase is going to say, okay, cool. We'll take the 100K loss. Right after they take that loss, they're going to run, let's call her mom, Fannie Mae, who's the federal government, who insures all this shit, which is our taxpayer dollars. And they say, hey, mom, here you go. I lost 100K on this. And mom's going to say, well, let's see if you followed your guidelines and your checklist. And she's going to say, and then that's called a curtailment. Remember that word, a curtailment. Well, you didn't do a BPO, 10 grand. Well, you didn't do this, 5 grand. Well, you did this, you did this, you did this. Okay, so we're going to give you back 85 grand because we curtailed you for 3 things. And they go, here you go. Here's your little coupon. And they fuck off. So Chase does not lose money. No banks lose money. And I'll take it even further, Scott. Check this out. When there's a deficiency on a short sale, meaning you understand that a seller gets a 1099 from this, okay? Because technically they had a loss to the bank and they gained from it. Banks never pursue this. It's like 1 in a billion, right? But you know what they do with those losses? Maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this online, but it's the truth. You can look this up. They house those losses and those deficiencies on their books. Those deficiencies last for about 10 years legally. Do you know what they do on year 9 and in 360 days? I'm Chase, you're Bank of America. I'm going to call my friend at Bank of America and I'm going to say, hey, you want to buy some deficiencies? And you're going to say, sure, at what? 3 cents on the dollar. And you say, great. Clock resets for another 10 years. That's a nice tax write-off, isn't it? A couple $100 million in deficiencies.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was the leverage that the banks had. I guess it never clicked in my head that they went back to Fannie 100%. And they said, hey, listen, here's what we want to be remunerated for our losses here. I always thought that whatever losses they had, it just was a write-off on their books.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, What about local taxes?
Local taxes, you mean property taxes?
Yeah, exactly. Like now all of a sudden they always get paid.
Yeah. So look, that's a good point too. There's 2 things that are non-negotiable. 2. We can negotiate almost anything. Property taxes is one. That's a hard cost. Number 1, very, very simply, for those that don't know, this is why banks pay property taxes escrowed. If it goes to property tax auction, the bank gets wiped out. I just want to make that very clear. So they know that they have to pay them. 1. 2, child support. Child support is non-negotiable. Child support does not move, and it attaches to that. So those 2 things always get paid. Not even the IRS gets paid most times, but child support gets paid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so, when I see these big, huge operations, whether it be the government or even these large financial institutions, I think of them as slow. And so here you have this situation where somebody's up against a timeline, or even if they've already been in, pre-foreclosure for 4 years, whatever it may be, once they engage with you, a mental clock starts going because you said you were going to help. And how long until you can help? And you promised it was going to be this. What kind of struggles, even through the Lost Mitt company, are you guys just simply dealing with by going to the DMV of banks, these big national fucking banks? How is that like?
So that, again, man, you're hitting all the numbers today, brother. I commend you. I go on a lot of interviews. This is one of the best ones I've ever done. So look, here's the reality. There's a couple ways to answer that. One, we are so good because the guys that do the loss mitigation have 21 plus years experience in loss mit. They've seen the worst of the worst. So they understand, and they also wrote some of the Fannie Mae and HUD guidelines. So they understand it from such an intuitive level that they know what department to go to and all that to accelerate, how to escalate, how to do that. The number one reason, you're right, the banks are super slow. The number one reason why they fail and why they're slower is because bad system, bad processing, meaning bad documentation for short sales. That's the number one reason that a short sale fails. Okay. So what we do from the beginning is we know exactly what to submit, how to submit it, and where it goes. That already speeds everything up. Longer term, we are designing prop tech and fintech to standardize the short sale process in America. That's a bold claim. That's what we're working towards in a longer tier term, and that's how we're building enterprise value in this company. But yes, I agree with you. This entire industry, it's just like the title business. Title companies, 99.999% of them suck. It's archaic, it's slow, and it makes zero sense.
All right. Well, let me ask you this then. And I want to just see all the problems in this. Yeah. When people are when they're in so despair, their lives have become such. They haven't been making their credit card bills. It's different like when pain is about to come. But once you've been living in pain for a long time, people are also slow to get out of trouble. And so when you're dealing with these sellers, I got to assume it's a little bit different. Even though they see the hope and the change and the promise, there's probably really shitty at returning their own documents and doing their own thing. So what is actually required after the initial stuff? You don't have to go like super granular, but are they needed throughout the whole entire process? And then do you just get these people like, dude, we just gave up on life, so we don't really participate well in this type of vehicle?
Great point. And that's why we get a limited power of attorney up front. So that was the key document that I discovered through doing hundreds of these on my own the hard way before the Lost Mitt was it is really difficult, like you just said, to keep going back to that seller who's in that mind state and getting 15 different documents throughout this process. So that's why we get the limited power of attorney, and we can transact on their behalf, limited only to the property, but it speeds up the process tremendously. Are they ever needed? Maybe once in a blue moon because there's a lender or a servicer that requires a wet signature and won't accept that POA for that specific document. Yes, they are. That's also why we tie in a payout, if there is any, for relocation fees and stuff like that at the back end. We keep them incentivized towards the end. But yeah, that's how we figure it out.
In this school group, which I've had the opportunity to look inside, and you showed me around, like it's a super active, multiple, like really many hundred, 500-600 people or something last time I looked in there. Yeah. But it's a lot of people. And so there's a lot of activities, a lot of people sharing, it's a lot of assistance. One of the things that I was curious about is there certain price point assets? When I say assets, in like homes that are better for this than others? Like, hey, listen, the sub 400s actually are better than the 2 millions. Is there something like that's kind of a target here?
Yeah. So there is. We now, because we've learned so much by doing hundreds of these now with a big community and nationwide. Before, I was only in Florida. So for short sales, meaning not like a JV or like a flip deal or a wholesale or something like that, just for processing short sales to get a fee on that, we're not doing anything beneath a $200,000 plus asset value. It's just not worth the time from a bandwidth / labor cost perspective. 1, 2, there is no real limit. You don't really see $1 million+ properties. We don't do hard money, right? Can you do them? Yes.
Sure.
We don't want to. We've done them and we've tried them. They don't follow the same regulations and the same guidelines as a traditional lender does. So they actually don't have to accept a short sale, and they're not going to take a big discount. Certain MSAs, right? Rural areas, we're not doing that, right? We need an exit if we're not always going to be the buyer. Most of the times we are the buyer, right? Certain lenders, and this is what we teach in the community, right? Certain lenders are better than others. Certain servicers are better than others. FHA, for example, an FHA-backed loan, they have the strictest guidelines in terms of discounts, right? They only give 3% discount up front, and then it goes in tiers based on how many days it's sitting on the market and that kind of stuff. Fun fact for you here. You know, the worse a condition of a property, right? Typically, the bigger the discount. Make sense?
Yeah.
With FHA, it is an oxymoron. After a certain point, from an appraisal perspective, C6 is the qualification for the worst type of appraisal. That means it's basically a teardown. If it qualifies as a C6, FHA does not want the reputational risk. They will actually take it in-house to the remediation department and not sell it. So
interesting.
You know, it's a fun fact to know, and that's why we don't, you know, because people get excited. They're like, "Oh, dude, this thing expired," and I'm like, they're never going to approve it because they don't want the liability.
Do you find that there's just certain, let's say you mobile homes with land is probably not, or a multifamily or a rental property is not? Like you need people who are in their primary residences. There's that type of strategy? No?
No. That doesn't really matter. What it really boils down to is the biggest indicator that we teach is what is the spread between the as is to the ARV? Because, and this is a good note for any of your audience. Don't worry about the debt, like what the bank is owed. Debt is irrelevant. The bank views the as is value as their baseline as the debt. They don't even care about the debt because they have certain parameters that they have to follow. So like the other day, I'll give you a good example. We had a $900,000 final judgment, meaning the bank was owed $900,000, right? We ended up getting a short sale to $460,000. Why? Wow. Because the as is came in at $490,000. That's where they ended up being, right? And the ARV, by the way, is $750,000. So that's a deal.
So you take that exact scenario, right? Maybe they hadn't been to the house for years or whatever. Are they like actively in this negotiation process, sending somebody out to the property to assess an as-is value, or are they just kind of winging it?
No. So again, depends on this is why short sales are so difficult. Every servicer is a little different, and they all have different freaking rules and regulations and different ways that they do things. There's either a BPO or an appraisal. It depends on the lender and servicer. They will always do a BPO or an appraisal. They're going to come up with their own value, right?
Yep.
That's how they determine that value. Now, there's ways that, of course, our locksmith team legally knows the laws and the regulations and their stipulations. So we might challenge an appraisal. We might challenge a BPO. We might be like, hey, did you know that there's $1 million in liens? Oh, no, we didn't. That's new information. Well, here you go. Why don't you recalculate that value because of that? Hey, did you know that there's an open permit? That's also another really good lead source. Open permits with delinquent debt. Banks are scared shitless of open permits and doing renovations to properties.
Nice.
So they always give a bigger discount.
So, there's always cowboys, and I love them because I've been them and I'm, try to stay on the gray side and the good side. But people always screw up something good. There's always some bad apples that come in and just say, oh, here's this thing, and now I'm going to do it X way. What are the ways? What are the big no-nos that somebody could do if they wanted to go on this? Let's say they heard this. They're like, they're not part of the community. They're not being educated on the right way, or they all of a sudden turn left when they should have gone right. What are the morons doing to screw this up?
So I'll answer that first by saying I can only speak for reverse flip and any related entities. So we don't fuck around with this. We do not do JVs and we do not do deals with anyone that's not in the school community, that's learning it our way and using our documentation and using our notaries, and everything's video documented and everything's by the book. We just don't do it. There's no amount of deals, no amount of money that you could give me in order to do that. That's how we control the QC process to make sure we don't get a dipshit, a rogue agent, if you will.
Yep.
As far as outside of that, man, look, I know we know somebody in this industry. For those of you that don't know, I don't want to bash anyone, and I don't even know what happened, but there's some big story that just happened a couple days ago from someone that got into some big problems.
You talk about the girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, the short sale queen. She hit the fucking, that's who you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, literally, she's on my list right up here at the top of the notes. I never heard of her before a day in my life, but I just saw all over the news, short sale queen gets popped, and obviously the government makes everything look scandalous. But damn, I'm curious what she did and your perspective on that without going personal. It's not a personal take. It's just
Look,
educate me.
No. This is what I'll say. I know her, right? I don't know her super well. She was in a mastermind with me, the family mastermind. I had met her years ago. She's a nice person. Firstly, I want to just say, I don't know what the hell happened because no one does. It's all an allegation right now. And it's, but
of course.
Look, man, it seems, and again, I'm going based off of what I know, but it seems that she was falsifying documents and there was some very foul play, right? Fraudulent stuff like that regarding short sales. She benefited from it. Her companies benefited from it, allegedly. Straw buyers and that kind of stuff. And the bank suffered because of it. And obviously it was 88 transactions from what I've heard and I've seen in the stories. They don't investigate you and arrest you and indict you over, stealing lollipops, I'm sure. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was more, from what I gathered, it was more, direct fraud and actual, fraud.
And is that kind of the thing that people do, is people over position themselves back to the bank to try to get a better rate? Is that something that I guess happens in the industry, but that shouldn't?
That should never happen. Again, we have a very, very compliant and clear position on this.
Yeah.
Look, even in our position and the amount of deals that we have and the amount of people that we have, dude, I've gotten hit up on this whole story more than, bro, from 2 days ago at 5 a.m., everyone's contacting me on this, right? And I've always had the same position. I'm like, guys, there are so many more things that we could be doing as a company to force more equity, to force more profit, that I just won't do. Like, for example, we could be keeping properties, not paying the debt and keeping them as rentals and just fighting the foreclosures to the tune of hundreds. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that. Would it sound nice? Yes, of course it would. But I'm not willing to do that. I'm just not willing to do it.
I'll share this with you. I was in the timeshare exit space for many years prior to getting into this, Will. And one of the things that our competitors did, because it's so easy, it's kind of tough, I should say, is when you see your competitors doing this one little scumbag thing and they're just raking it in, you really have to be able to have delayed gratification because that that's going to end up in a major lawsuit. But what these guys were doing is they were trying to get people out of their timeshares. And so what they would do is they would have their attorneys they wouldn't even use attorneys. They would call in and do a change of address and change of phone number. So they would call in the customer and essentially the same thing to the mortgage broker. Hey, mortgage company, I've changed my phone number, I've changed my email, et cetera, et cetera. And then that would make the seller feel, the homeowner feel in this scenario, if I used it feel like, oh, everything must be taken care of because I'm no longer getting collection calls and I'm no longer getting demand letters and I'm no longer getting complaint emails. And so they're all hunky-dory, like everything must be fine. No need to even think about it. The whole time, all this pain is happening in this little bucket over here. And then ultimately that catches up. And it's these little cutting corners to get a little bit of profit for a short-term run that ultimately it could potentially end up like this other situation. So yeah, man, I've seen it up close.
Yeah, man. I think it goes back to, ironically, how you started this call, which was discipline. The shortcut is always the longest way. I heard that a long time ago from a very, very wealthy man, and took him a long time to get there, longer than he would have liked, but he's still there, right? He could have cut a lot of corners. Again, myself included, just because we're talking about this specifically, that example was very related to our space, right? I knew her. It sucks from a personal perspective. I'm not best friends with her, but you do have to look at it. And I do say to myself, I'm like, man, there was so much opportunity to have done it the right way.
Yeah.
Why would you?
I consider it good counsel, surrounding yourself with good people. That's what I love about your school community, is because that's exactly what you've done. You've built a fortress of people who are and there's so many deals out there. You don't have to cut the corners. So tell us quickly about the school community, man. Like, what will they find inside of there for all of my followers, for all my clients that are like, you know what, dude, I have so many leads sitting in so I own a marketing company for people who just watch the podcast. I send over these leads to my affiliates, and then you find out through discovery, like, oh my God, they have this note that they didn't know, or all this other stuff. So I generate hundreds of these leads, I'm sure, every quarter to my affiliates. If they now want to learn this and get into the school community, et cetera, what do we got to do to like connect dots here, Will?
Yeah. So you use the link that we provided you, right? And they use that link. The first step is very, very simple. They get into the school community, right? And again, full disclosure for anybody here, it's $297 a month for the school community. Okay. And that's like your phone bill. If you're not willing to it, and I tell this on all my webinars, when people ask me, they're like, oh man, you're giving a discount. I'm like, brother, if you are negotiating the $297 investment into your life a month, I don't want you in the community. Period.
Exactly.
I don't need you. Please, for the love of God. And you want to be rich, but you won't do that. So it's $297. Teach you everything in there. We have all the docs in there. All the questions are answered in there. There's 4 live calls. One of them is with me, an hour to an hour and a half every single week. We work deals with you, right? And then we JV. It's a 60-40 split. It's super simple. It's 40% to that JV partner. It's 60% to us. And we choose the exit. We choose what we want to do with the deal at the end. And then that's how we profit, right? People, affiliates can bring in more people into the community and then build their own teams, basically their own pods within the community, and do deals together, obviously under our umbrella, right? Very similar to Pace, right? With sub 2, right? People can do a bunch of things in there, right? As long as it fits within the sub 2 agenda. It's very simple, man. We teach it a very specific way. We teach it a very compliant way, which is the most important thing. And we don't do anything within the gray areas. So
can somebody go through this process and not use the loss MIT company that you guys have? And is that the requisite effectively, or that's what you receive in exchange for your guidance on the JV side? Is the JV effectively like, hey, listen, I'll get access to your loss MIT, and that's really the best, most efficient way to do this is through them?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's also a lot of other things too, man. Like you get all of our documentation, you get all of our resources, you get our network of attorneys, our network of title companies. I mean, you get basically a business out of the box, right? Where it allows the person, I always say, I'd rather own 20% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. You don't have to focus on dispo. You don't have to focus on loss MIT. And I tell everybody in that community, myself included, I'm like, guys, I'm not a loss MIT expert. I got the best experts in the business to come and teach and help here. But your job is not to do that. Your job is to go become the best acquisitions person to bring in as many of these deals as possible. Let us do the heavy lifting on the back end. You'll make way more money that way anyway, and you'll fit into the right bucket that you want to do. But no, our loss MIT team is, number one, we don't have the bandwidth, but number two, we don't offer it as a service outside of you doing it. But it goes back, Scott, to the very simple point, man. Like, it's something that if we don't control the process, there's way too many things that can go wrong.
Yeah. And most people, particularly my followers, and my mindset is like, I'm good at sales or I'm good at marketing. What I'm not going to be an expert at, nor do I want to deviate from revenue producing activities over here to try to master or learn, is loss mitigation and what documents to file and how to do this. No, let me just do what I'm good at, which is I know how to get leads. I know how to get people to sign an agreement. Let's let fulfillment take the rest of it so I can focus on building my revenue stream. All I care about is more contracts, and then let the back end make it turn into capital.
Could you imagine a world where if you wanted to sell stuff online, that you went out and actually wanted to go and build out a logistics process like an Amazon?
Yeah.
You would have to be a dipshit to do that.
Yeah.
No, what you do is you realize Amazon has figured this out. Let me go on Amazon. Let me run ads. Let me sell the best products and let me do all the product sales. Let them handle the fulfillment. Think of us no different than an Amazon, just for hairy deals.
That's a good way to end it. So we have the Amazon of hairy deals, Will Dennis. Will, I know we're going to post a particular link of our own here. We'll put that in post-production. But in reality, how do we follow you on IG? How do they go directly to you? If they want to just go directly to you, what are the processes to kind of see a little bit more, particularly into the school community, which I think is a tremendous value?
The best way, man, I'm on Instagram, Willy Numbers with a Y. That's like my personal page. my brand.
Nice.
I post basically about life and reverse flip and stuff like that. Outside of that, we're having an event this Saturday, tomorrow. Actually, it's a 150 plus person. It's a free event for the school community members right here in Boca at the Renaissance Hotel. So we're just gonna, my attorney, lost mate guys, myself, my sales director, all that. We're gonna be there and we're just gonna run through a little bit of everything and have a kick-ass time. Instagram's the best place to get me. School is by far the only way and the best place to do these deals and learn everything reverse flip on what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure if I took a little bit more brain juice, I think of a more articulate way to say this, but I'm just going to say it the way I feel it, which is I've seen a lot of bullshit since I've got into this space. And this is one of those things that I'm like, yo, I support this. I like this. I know how many dead dog shit leads are sitting in people's CRMs that really aren't. And it's that coal, right? It's there. It's got all the makings of a damn diamond in the rough. You just got to be able to process it, and you got to have the strength and the team behind it. And what I'm super excited about is your school, because what I know about school communities is they can have a low retention rate. And I watched your community continue to grow. And the reason why they grow and the reason why more people join is because it is damn valuable. So dude, I really, I tell everybody to check it out. Go to reverseflip.com/Scott. We just do that together right now. And then that's it, man. I genuinely appreciate your team, Lou.
Hey, man, I just want to say I appreciate it. I've also watched you from afar for many, many years, doing what you do. I think you by far are the best at what you've curated over there in your company. You can feel it. I can literally hear it. I don't know what's going on, but it feels like a celebration every 5 minutes, which is dope. But no, you could tell, look, the same way that this stuff oozes out of me, the stuff oozes out of you, and you care. And you want to be a master of your craft, and I certainly think you are. So I appreciate that, man. It really does.
Dude, it means a lot coming from you, brother. All right, man. Keep in touch, and we'll keep on sending some people your way.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, guys.
All right, talk to you, man.
Bye-bye.